ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। वासुदेवाय नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय नमो
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायण स्मृत्य शरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं जयमुदीरये। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवति श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिके। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय कृष्णाय च कुमाराय आय नमो नमः। विश्वेश्वराय भगते धर्मज्ञानादिभिः सह अलौकिकसदृशामीशा पुराणार्थो गुणोदितः। Hare Krishna, reciting Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 18, entitled Maharaj Parikshit, Cursed by a Brahmana Boy. Text 18. Sutta Uvacha Aho Vayam Janmamrito Vritodhyahasma Vridhan Vidyapi Vilomajata Daushkulyavadhin Vidnoti Shikram Mahat Manamavidhayo Vayam Janmamritodyahasma Vridhan Vidyapi Vilomajata Kaushkulyavadhin Vidnoti Shikram Vayam Janmamritodyahasma Vidyan Vidyapi Vilomajata Kaushkulyavadhin Vidnoti Shikram Mahatmanam Abhidhana Yoga
Vayam Janmamritodyahasma Yapi Vilomajata Yamadhin Vidhunoti Shikram Samanam Yoga
Vayam Janmamritodyahasma Vilomajata One more. One more. Word to word. Suta Uvacha. Sut Goswami said, Aho, how, Vayam, we, Janma Britaha, promoted in birth, Adya, today, have clearly, Asa, have become, with the Anuvritya, by serving those who advance in knowledge, although Vidomajata, born in a mixed caste, Taushkulyam, this qualification of birth, are sufferings, Vidhunoti, purifies, Shigram, very soon, Mattamana, those who are great, Abhidhana, conversation, Yoga, election. Translation of Prabhupada Shukrapa, Shri Sut Goswami said, O God, although we are born in a mixed caste, we are still promoted in birthright simply by serving and following the great who advanced in knowledge. Even by conversing with such great souls, one can without delay cleanse oneself of all disqualifications resulting from the lower births. Purport. Sut Goswami did not take his birth in a Brahmana family. He was born in a family of mixed caste or an uncultured low family. But because of higher association like Sri Shukadeva Goswami and the great rishis of Naimisharanya, sudden disqualification of inferior birth was washed off. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu followed this principle in pursuance of the Vedic usages, and by his transcendental association, he elevated many lowborn and those disqualified by birth or action to the status of devotional service and established them in the position of acharyas or authorities. He clearly stated that any man, whatever he may be, whether a Brahmana or Shudra by birth, or a household or mendicant in the order of society, if he is conversant with the science of Krishna, he can be accepted as an acharya or guru, a spiritual master. Sut Goswami learned the science of Krishna from great rishis and authorities like Shukadev and Vyasadeva. And he was so qualified that even the sages of Naimisharanya eagerly wanted to hear from him the signs of Krishna in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam. So here the double association of great souls are by hearing and preaching. Transcendental signs or signs of Krishna has to be learned from authorities. And when one preaches the signs, he becomes still more qualified. So Suta Goswami had both advantages. And thus, undoubtedly, he was completely freed from all disqualifications of low birth and mental arrogance. This verse definitely proves that Srila Shukadeva Goswami did not refuse to teach Suta Goswami about transcendental science, nor did the sages Naimisharanya refuse to hear lessons from him because of his inferior birth. This means that thousands of years ago, there was no bar to learning or preaching the transcendental science because of inferior birth. The rigidity of the so-called caste system in Hindu society became prominent within only 100 years or so, when the number of Vijabandhus or disqualified men in families of higher castes increased. Lord Sri Chaitanya revived the original Vedic system and he elevated Thakur Haridas to the position of Namacharya, or authority in preaching the glories of the holy name of the Lord. Although His Holiness Srila Haridas Thakur was pleased to appear in a family of Mohammedans. Such is the power of pure devotees of the Lord. The Ganges water is accepted as pure and one can become purified after taking a bath in the waters of the Ganges. But as far as the great sages, as the great devotees of the Lord are concerned, they can purify a degraded soul even by being seen by the Lord One. And what to speak of association? Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to purify the whole atmosphere of the polluted world by sending qualified preachers all over the world. And it remains with the Indians to take up this task scientifically and thus do the best kind of humanitarian work. The mental diseases of the present generation are more acute than body diseases. It is quite fit and proper to take up the preaching of Srimad Bhagavatam all over the world without delay. Mahattamanam Abhidhana also means dictionary of great devotees or book full of the words of great devotees. Such a dictionary of the words of great devotees and those of the Lord are in the Vedas and allied literatures, specifically Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Prachari Nirvishesh Shundyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानन्द श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
Very fortunate to have Arjunanand introduction about Prabhuji to birth in South India, Mumbai. Birth Prabhuji had reading multiple scriptures in the Bible, and
not scriptures, textbooks.
he got connected to Krishna consciousness in Connecticut hospital by the elders of Krishna book. And currently for this serving in ISKCON Brooklyn. So initially when he went to Brooklyn, one incident happened where Ravi Shankar got very much pleased with this service and he wrote a letter to Radha about service services. And on that, already gave initiation and on that initiation day, only Arjuna was there and Madhav was there. And personally, very grateful to believe that our batch may to our course and follow and was selected by so for this known for his Kirtan, I have not seen that in YouTube videos, it's not what we have in welcome to the Bhaktan and Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare
Hare Krishna. So we welcome all of you to our morning Bhagavatam class. So Translation, Shri Suta Goswami said, O God, although we are born in a mixed caste, we are still promoted in birthright simply by serving and following the great who advanced in knowledge. Even by conversing with such great souls, one can without delay cleanse oneself of all disqualifications resulting from lower births. So it's already 8 o'clock. So till what time should I go? 8:45. Q&A included? Okay, so 8:40, 5 minutes Q&A. Hare Krishna. So recently, before I came to India, I traveled to this place called New Vrindavan in the US. It comes in West Virginia. So over there, I met this devotee. We were having, Radhisham Prabhu was there. There was a retreat going on. And this devotee, his grace Banabhatta Prabhu, he is a disciple of Prabhupada. And he was there, I didn't know who he was. So he was leading this very ferocious Tulsi Arti. So I was really amazed. I mean, everyone, he was very eccentric. So everyone was asking, who is this person? And I got to know his name is Banabhatta Prabhu. So I heard one pastime when he was in Tokyo, preaching in Tokyo, Japan. So he would be a book distributor, and being a book distributor, you learn the local language, at least how much you need to know. So he would be going around and distributing books. And those days it was BTGs, Back to Guarded magazines. So they wanted to go far away from Tokyo city because it was too crowded and people were not taking. So they were finding some nice Sankirtan spots away from the city. So at that time, they found one street and there were so many people there. I mean, he did not know it was all filled with the local Japanese mafia. So they're called the Yakuzas. So when he went around giving these, it was not even a magazine, it was like a smaller size, like a pamphlet. One had Prabhupada on it. It was a small booklet, but like a pamphlet size. One side there was Prabhupada, and other side there were Gaunitai deities. So he was just going around distributing, and some people did not like what he was doing. And they were, one person came and another person came, and they were all like wearing this black coat and black hat. And you know how like mafia people look. So it became 5 people, 10 people, 12 people gathered, and he just didn't care. He thought, okay, I don't know who they are. So he just went around giving these books, and people were very generous. And he was saying he was feeling very empowered that day to just keep giving out these booklets. So as he was giving, they started making some commotion, like some noise of disapproval that you cannot share this, whatever you're sharing here. So he did not care. He just went around the entire street. He was just completing, and the noise increased from their side. And then they called one of the representative to go and tell this person to stop. And at that time, our Bhanabhatta Prabhu, he saw that this person who was approaching him, and he saw his finger. Some sort of allegiance they showed to the mafia is they cut off their pinky finger. So he saw that his finger was cut off. And he had heard that anyone who has his pinky cut off, they're part of the mafia. So he did not care. He continued distributing. And this person came and he stopped him from distributing. And our Vanavatta Prabhu, he just said, okay, would you like to have a magazine? So this person, he took the magazine, he looked at it with disgust, and he just threw it. And because it was smaller, it's not like the magazine size, like I said, it was smaller. It flew for a long distance and it almost went inside the gutter. So it was like half inside the gutter and half outside. The half outside, it was the covered page with Gaunitai deities. So from now you can appreciate the faith of this Western devotee, proper disciple. He's doing Sankirtan in Tokyo. And you know how he reacted? And he knew, he got a hint that these are all mafia people. I mean, probably he knows, kung fu, karate. Probably he just had a gun. He could have been shot. So this person who just threw it, he said something Japanese, something they don't distribute here, get out of here. What the hell is this? Something like that. And he went back to his gang members, and all of them were cheering. No, you did the right thing. And so then this person, Banabhatta Prabhu, he saw Gaunitai's photo to be almost going in gutter, and he felt so bad. He stormed, he stormed towards this entire mafia gang, and he almost like with a great strength, he tapped on his shoulder and he turned him around, and then he said, "You," in Japanese, he knew Japanese. So he said, "You go and pick that up." Like that. He's all expression. I could imagine when he was sharing the story, I could imagine because he just led that eccentric Tulsi Aarti, so I could imagine the expression on his face. He says, "You go and pick that up." And he's like looking at the person who threw it. He's looking at all his members. They didn't say anything. And he again said, "Pick that up." He's just forcing this person. And he was saying that it was as if I was so empowered by Narsimhadev. Looking at his expression, he became fully pale. And then he looked at his other gang members, they became pale. And this person, he was just saying, pick it up, go and pick it up. And then the person walked all the way to the gutter, brought the magazine, dusted it off, and handed it over to him. He said, "I'm not going to take it back because you insulted it. I don't take back a pamphlet." All this in Japanese is going on. You have to pay for it. Then he said, he again looked at his gang members. They'll pay for it. Where do I get the money? And then, of course, they took out something of this 1,000 yanas or something. It's like $6, $7. So he took that 1,000 yanas, gave it to him, took the pamphlet, gave back, and went back to his gang. And then the leader, because in Japan, the culture is very strong. So the hierarchy is like, they still respect. So the leader of the gang, he came and he appreciated this devotee and he gave him some donation. Now, following the leader, each one by one came, gave a donation and went back. You see, so Banabhatta Prabhu was sharing this pastime and he was saying, so how he felt so empowered that he did not care what they would do to him. But he was so empowered that he could not tolerate Gaunitai being disgraced. And therefore, he did not care if the whole world, whatever would happen. But he could not tolerate Gaunitai being disgraced. So, as it is said here, it is mentioned, where is it? Yeah, Daushkulyam. Daushkulyam means the disqualification of birth. So disqualification of birth is not necessarily a disqualification in the line of spirituality. Why? Because you see, just like this Bhanabhatta Prabhu had so much faith that yes, Gaunitai are there. Yes, this is disgrace and they will protect me. I'm just acting on their behalf. He's a Westerner. He's an American. Preaching in Tokyo for Srila Prabhupada, not being paid. So you see how much faith do they have in Prabhupada's words. Does it matter where they are born? Does it matter what their color is? Does it matter whether they're rich or whether they're poor? Nothing matters. Why? Because they have given their heart for Prabhupada. Isn't it? So similarly, you will find there's a verse in, I think, Padyavali it comes. Vyadasya charanam dhruvasya chavayo vidya gajendrasya ka kubjaya kimunama rupamadikam kim tatsudamno dhanam vamsha vidurasya yadavapate ugrasya kim paurusham bhaktya tushyati kevalam na chagunair bhakti priyo madhava. So this beautiful verse saying that Dhruva, what qualification he had, he was just a small boy. Even his Upanayana Samskar was not done. So Dhruva, then Gajendra had no knowledge. Vidya Gajendra Saka. Kubjaya Kimuna Nama Rupa means what form did Kubja have to attract Krishna? It was not her form. He was just pleasing Krishna. And how much money did Sudama have? You might have more. But he attracted Krishna's heart. And then Vidura is not considered to be, he was actually maid servant's son from Vyasdev, but he was not, therefore, Vamsha ko Vidurasya. What Vamsha is of Vidura, but Lord Krishna went to his home. And similarly, Krishna always served Ugrasena, but Ugrasena he lost so many battles. Why? Because Bhakti Priyo Madhava. The Supreme Lord is attracted by this component of bhakti in the hearts of the devotees. And therefore, bhakti is a universal principle applicable to all the living entities or spirit souls. Whatever external covering is there, it is very superficial. In there's a verse in 13th chapter of the Gita, 33rd verse. यथा सर्वगतं सौक्ष्म्यादाकाशं नोपलिप्यते सर्वत्रावस्थितो देहे तथात्मानोपलिप्यते. What it means is, see, the sky, due to its subtle nature, does not mix with anything, although it is all pervading. That means you take mud, there is akash in it, sky aspect is there. Or you take stool, there is sky in it. But sky does not get affected by the stool, it does not get affected by the mud. Similarly, the soul also enters into different aspects of the material world, different bodies, different environment. The soul's everywhere. But just as sky is everywhere, doesn't get affected by matter, similarly, the soul, on account of its spiritual nature, is everywhere, doesn't get affected by matter. The 13th chapter it comes. The soul is situated in Brahman vision. The soul situated in Brahman vision does not mix with the body, though situated in that body. Like that is mentioned. Yeah. So therefore, this bhakti is such a principle, it is applicable to all the souls. It's on a spiritual platform. Like for example, in I think in 1970s or 72, I'm not sure exactly when, there was this person called as Crazy Peter. I'm pretty sure you've heard about him. So this Crazy Peter, he was called as Crazy Peter because he actually joined the Boston Temple, but he would just lie at the entrance. Just imagine you have this center, nice center, new people are coming, and there's a person lying on the at the entrance. And sometimes he would go to sleep, but he like Prabhupada's books, so he would have a stack of Prabhupada's books and just sit there and read. And when he would get tired, just sleep. And sometimes just eat there, sleep there. So that time his only Satsarup Maharaj was temple president, and he wrote to Prabhupada. And he wrote to Prabhupada, what should we do about him? It was just an inconvenience for the new people. And all Prabhupada replied was, can't you tolerate? That's all. So him and Giriraj Maharaj, they all were there and they said, okay, Prabhupada just wants us to tolerate. So in some time he moved to New York, and I think a year or 2 years later, when Giriraj Maharaj was flying to New York, and he asked the devotees there, what happened to that devotee called as Crazy Peter? And they said he went to New Vrindavan, and he was in New Vrindavan. So for next 20 years, His Holiness Giriraj Maharaj says that he never heard about Crazy Peter. And then after 20 years, he flies to Los Angeles, and that's where he meets. He goes there, and he sees Crazy Peter is right here. But now he's not no more Crazy Peter. Now he had got initiated. Recently means after that episode in New York, he got initiated by Prabhupada, and he was called as Kushakrata Prabhu. And this Kushakrata Prabhu, Giriraj Maharaj did not know it was the same Crazy Peter, and he was the one who had translated many of the Goswami's literatures from Sanskrit and Bengali to English. So you look at the potency of pure devotees. Wherever they go, they can transform. See, there was when Prabhupada was traveling in the Jaladuta, he was, reaching the Boston Harbor. At that time, as his ship was reaching Boston Harbor, there was another ship leaving Boston Harbor. And there was this captain on the other side. All he did was wave to Prabhupada from his ship. Before he knew it, some years later, he became a devotee. Like Vrindavan Gopal was saying yesterday about mystical factor, how Krishna makes devotees, isn't it? Yeah, through association. This is mystical factor. They just saw Prabhupada and they would become devotees. Mm. Similarly, there is one devotee he was there in one jail in Mumbai, Arthur Road jail. And this person, he was a pickpocketer. He was a small child. He was like 13, 14-year old, but he did not have any means of livelihood. So he started stealing, pickpocketing and everything. So he would be put back into jail. Again he would come out, again he would steal, put back into jail. And when you're in jail, you have to do some work there as a part of your reformation. So he was doing cleaning some trash cans over there. And over there he found a BTG magazine. And on the cover of the BTG magazine was Srila Prabhupada with his hands folded and with the golden watch. So his eyes were drawn to the golden watch. So he took a vow that day that as soon as I get out of this jail, I'm going to steal the watch. And on the BTG, there was the address given, some Akash Ganga apartment or something. As soon as he was released, he went to Akash Ganga apartments and he found out that Prabhupada had moved to Juhu land. And he went to Juhu land, and that time his known as Giriraj Maharaj again was temple president there. And Giriraj Maharaj said, Prabhupada is soon coming in some days, but as of now, he's not here. So why don't you just do some service, stay in the temple, get shaven up? He got shaved up. He started rendering services, got prasadam, and he was with the devotees very happily. And then he got to know that Prabhupada was in Hyderabad. Before he came to Juhu, he was in Hyderabad. So then he told Giriraj Maharaj, I really want to go. And Giriraj Maharaj said, no, there's so many services here, you can't just go. He said, either you allow me or I'm going to steal and get the money and go to Hyderabad. So then Giriraj Maharaj had to allow him to go. So he met Srila Prabhupada. There was a Pandal program. He came and sat right in front of Prabhupada, and Prabhupada appreciated. Nice Indian boy, because in that time it was all just Westerners. All his temples were mostly Westerners, hardly any Indians. So this young Indian boy coming and sitting right in front of Prabhupada in the Pandal program, shaven headed, dhoti kurta tilak and everything, was very nice. Prabhupada later on after the Pandal program called for the boy, and he asked, "Who is this? Who are you?" And he told Prabhupada that time he had vowed that he'll give up his stealing habit. He was done with his stealing and everything. He wanted to become a devotee. So he said, Prabhupada, I was in jail and devotee saved me. I went to this temple in Juhu and I was saved. And then he also said, I went to Juhu because I had seen your photo with the golden wristwatch. So I wanted to steal it, but now I don't want it. Prabhupada said, what? You wanted to steal my watch? He immediately removed that watch and gave it to him. He said, no, Prabhupada, I don't want to take it now. Back then I had a desire, but now I don't want it. So Prabhupada said, you will take it anyways. So he took it. This is all in Hyderabad. He goes back to Bombay, and soon Prabhupada is there. So that stealing habit had not gone away completely. So what had happened was in Juhu he was given service of bhoga purchasing. In that bhoga purchasing, while doing bhoga purchasing, he was taking whatever surplus amount of money he would keep with himself. He bought some fruits for the deities, for Prabhupada and everything, and he would keep whatever money he had in his own pocket. So like this, it continued. And when Prabhupada came there, he thought, at that time, there was a huge billboard where the five-star dairy milk, there was a Cadbury, the chocolate was being advertised. So he wanted to purchase. So he purchased few of chocolates and put in his bead bag. And he went to the temple and he thought, okay, I'll just, keep the fruits in deity kitchen. And Prabhupada's kitchen was connected to his own room. So he had to go to Prabhupada's room. So he thought, I'll just put Bhoga in Prabhupada's kitchen and then I'll push out. So as soon as he entered, Prabhupada was there. He didn't expect that. So immediately you had to offer obeisances. So as soon as you offered obeisances, the chocolates fell outside of his bead bag. And Prabhupada said, so what is this? And then he did not know what to do. So he thought, I'll bribe Prabhupada. He said, Prabhupada, this is for you. One chocolate for you. So Prabhupada took it, five-star, and he bit it. He tasted it. He said, what is this? Cocoa? We don't take cocoa, he said. Why are you going behind cocoa? And he put it aside. And he said, Prabhupada, it is a sweet. So immediately Prabhupada got up, he went to the kitchen, with his own hands he made halwa for this devotee, and he gave halwa to this Prabhu, and immediately tasting that halwa, later on he recollected that after tasting that halwa, he completely gave up cocoa chocolate. Isn't it? So you see how Prabhupada was so affectionate, and how this person is getting reformed by affection of Sri Prabhupada, isn't it? So his name is Haridas Prabhu. He was in Juhu later on. And he ran the Govindas in Juhu then finally, because he was transformed by Prasadam. So in like this, we see bhakti works on a complete spiritual platform, not on a material platform. That means, just as we read, just as the air does not mix with mud or stool, similarly, the spirit soul does not mix with anything bodily. Hmm. And that means when we look at a devotee, to see the material aspect of devotee is what actually covers up our progress. Hmm. Why? Because you see, when we are little far away from devotees, we develop appreciation. You know why? Because we only see the spiritual side from far away. Hmm. When we come close, along with spiritual side, we also see the material side. But we don't know that we don't understand that the devotee is getting purified. Why to point at a person under the shower? He's already getting cleansed. It is like if the fan is moving and you say, "Hey, Prabhu, it's too cold. Can you turn it off?" He has already turned it off. The fan is still moving, but it will come to a halt. So similarly, a devotee already uh, practicing Krishna consciousness under guidance of Guru and Krishna, he is going to get purified. So when we go too close to devotees and we see the material side, that is called as aparada. So even though bhakti it works on a spiritual platform, when we look at the material side of a devotee, Krishna is not pleased, and therefore offenses take place. And though in one lecture, Prabhupada said this thing. And he said, Bhagavatam 10:84-13 on December 10th, Prabhupada spoke in Delhi, 1971. Cause and effect is for the body, like material cause, material effect is for the body. Karmana, by my previous activity, I get a particular type of body, cause and effect. That is not applicable in devotional service. Devotional service is ahituki apratihata. Because I'm high born, I will have Krishna consciousness. No. Or because I'm low born, I cannot have Krishna consciousness. That is not ahituki. There is no such cause and effect. Apratihata. Apratihata means without any barrier. So like that Prabhupada said. That means Prabhupada is saying the material cause and effect is applicable on material platform for material things. But bhakti is working on a spiritual platform. So the material cause, material effect cannot become a barrier for practice of bhakti. And therefore, like we're discussing so many examples, you see, even when Srila Prabhupada, if you had to consider the material aspect of Prabhupada when he is traveling to the West, material aspect means what? Money. How much money did he have? 40 rupees. How much food did he have? Some potatoes and a bag of cereal. And it was a approximately 40-day journey in the cargo ship. And how young and strong was he? He was an old man, about to turn 70 on the ship. And he had 2 heart attacks. That means not even good health. And when he faced 2 heart attacks, he thought, if I have one more, I will not survive. But that night, he had this dream where the Supreme Lord, with his Dasavatar, they took control of the ship. And the next day, he met this Captain Pandey. And Pandey said, Captain Pandey said, that was the smoothest sailing over the Atlantic ever. So they told Prabhupada, you keep traveling with us, because whenever we go in Atlantic, we'll have a smooth sailing because of you. You see, if you see the material aspect, then Prabhupada was actually not qualified, isn't it? But spiritually, he was so dependent on Krishna. His most heartfelt poems came out when he was on the ship, isn't it? Why? Because bhakti works on a spiritual platform. Similarly, once towards the ending, like in 1977, Srila Prabhupada was on his bed in Vrindavan. At that time, 2 of his god brothers, Akinchan Krishnadas Babaji and Bon Maharaj, both came and sat beside Prabhupada. They wanted to spend some time with Prabhupada. At that time, during the course of the conversation, immediately Akinchan Krishnadas Babaji came and said, "Do you know, Prabhupada, how was it possible that you spread the holy name across the globe? You also went to the West. Here we have Bon Maharaj. He also went to the West." And Prabhupada already started feeling embarrassed. And then he said, "You went to New York, he went to London. You preached the holy name, he also preached the holy name. But you exploded the chanting of holy name across the globe, but it did not happen in the other case. Do you know why?" And Bon Maharaj was also quiet at this time. And Akinchan Das Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj, he said, "It is because of your faith in the holy name. You had so much faith in the holy name, and it is said when Prabhupada would do the Kirtans in Tompkins Square Park, every day he would do for 4 hours, single-handedly. Single-handedly for 4 hours chanting Hare Krishna with a bongo drum. So Akinchan Krishnadas Babaji said, you had so much faith in the holy name, and that faith is what expanded the Krishna consciousness movement. So you see, there's another example, because bhakti is working on a complete spiritual platform. So therefore, when we talk about when we get entangled in the material aspects, immediately there's aparadha, and even though there is no material cause and effect, if we find there is some obstacle to a practice of devotional service, immediately we have to reflect, what aparadha am I doing? Of course, sometimes Krishna's test and this and that. Sometimes it has to be something spiritual, isn't it? Why? Because on the spiritual platform, bhakti is present. That means if our practice of bhakti, there is some hindrance, it cannot be, Prabhu, because I'm too busy. It cannot be. Because Prabhupada is saying there is no material cause nor effect for the progress of bhakti. So, similarly, you will find once, this is in Leelamrit. Once Jadrani Mataji and Govinda Mataji, Govinda Dasi, they went to gather flowers for Prabhupada, and this is the time when he was first getting sick. At that time, they were talking to one another and they said, see, both had heard the men say that women were less intelligent, and they felt discouraged. Later, Govinda Dasi told Prabhupada about the problem. Is it true, she asked, that because we are women, we won't make advancement as quickly as the brahmacharis? She asked. Yes, Prabhupada answered. If you think of yourselves as women, how will you make any advancement? You must see yourself as spirit, soul, eternal sound of Krishna. Then there is progress. So, similarly, at another time, when Bhakti Tirth Maharaj, he was new to the movement. At that time, people would see him because he was almost like the first black devotee in the movement, especially in the West, where everyone was like really white. So he really stood out. So he went to Prabhupada and said, "What problem I face outside, I also feel it's the same in this movement. People look at me because I'm black." So what Prabhupada told him, that if you get affected by it, what difference does it make? They look at you as, oh, black devotee, because they are neophytes. If you get affected by it, you are another neophyte. That's what Prabhupada said. So if you also get affected by it, what difference does it make? So in this way, time and again, by all these examples, we have to understand that bhakti is the quality of heart, and the Supreme Lord connects to the soul. Mamai Vamsho Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatanaha. Krishna says that all these living entities are my parts and parcels, in whichever bodies they may be. The super soul does not make any distinction. Okay, I'll go to that soul who is in a rich man's body, or who is well to do, or very smart, or very qualified materially. No. Even in a worm in a stool, the Paramatma goes behind that living entity. Because the connection is Sanatan. It is eternal connection with the Supreme Lord. Soul to the super soul connection. So the material aspects don't pose any problem. It is sometimes, like it is said, Maya can compel you, but she cannot impel you. What does that mean? Like, she can come and show her all glitter glamour, but she cannot force you to accept her. All she can do is dance in front of you. Finally, if you catch her hand, it is you who's catching. So Maya cannot force you. She can never grab you. It is ultimately our own free will. By our own choice, we choose Maya. So as long as we are under the shelter of the Supreme Lord, under the shelter of the devotees, we are sheltered. As soon as we leave the shelter, we think this is too much, too many rules and regulations. That is the time we become victimized by the material energy. In one of the purports Prabhupada uses, it is not we are sheltered under material energy, we are victimized. Victimized means we become helpless and we become complete, we don't know what is to be done, and we suffer immensely under the shelter, under the victimization of Maya. So therefore, see, another thing in this verse it is mentioned, Daushkulyam Adim Vidunoti Shigram. Daushkulyam Adim Vidunoti Shigram means Daushkulam is the disqualification on birth, based on birth, and Adhim are the sufferings thereupon. Vidunoti Shigram. As soon as we come into the fold of bhakti, even if whatever background we have had, whatever conditioning we had, whatever past we had, doesn't matter anymore. Everything is vidunoti. How long? Shigram. See, dhunoti means clean. Vidhunoti means to clean with a lot of enthusiasm. Very strong cleaning. Like you have like 2x, 10x detergent. So vidhunoti is like that. And shigra means very quickly. Very quickly, it does not even matter. Whatever disqualification, daushkulyam adim, whatever disqualification we had doesn't matter anymore. So therefore, you will see in Chaitanya Chaitamrita, the Supreme Lord wanted to prove this. As Prabhupada says in the purport, this is the Vedic principle. The Vedic principle was that anyone who takes to bhakti, he goes beyond all these other considerations. But as Prabhupada mentioned, due to Dvijabandhus, in only past 100, 200 years, that's when the contamination entered the society. And that's when it became more caste conscious. But before it was not like that. And Prabhupada gives the example here that Suta Goswami, Shukadev Goswami, who is a pure devotee, did not restrict Suta Goswami from sitting in the audience. Nor did the sages of Naimisharanya say, we cannot listen from you, Suta Goswami, because you did not have a good birth. Prabhupada is saying Suta Goswami was taught by Shukadev Goswami, and he was heard by sages of Naimisharanya. Both of who have very high birth. And Suta Goswami, materially speaking, did not have high birth. What a point, isn't it? So, similarly in Chaitanya Chaitamrita, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed this point by appointing Haridas Thakur as Namacharya, as the Acharya for chanting the holy name, as the Acharya for spreading the chanting of the holy name. Who? Haridas Thakur. What was his background? Mohammedan. Not even the fold of Varnashrama Dharma. Similarly, you will find Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted Dabir Ka Sakar Malik as the two prime, of course, part of the six Goswamis who went on to accomplish the mission of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in excavating the holy places, in writing books and teaching the glories of the holy name. Whom is he appointing? Not the Brahmanas, or at least so-called Brahmanas. He is appointing whoever is advanced devotee. Jai Krishna Sattattva Vetta, say Guru Pai. Whoever has understood the science of Krishna consciousness, they are free to preach. Similarly, you will find Shamananda Pandit was not a Brahmana. But for him, when he was cleaning, the place, I think outside Man Mandir, Shrimati Radharani herself came. She did not say, oh, you're not Brahmana, sorry, next time. No. And you will also find Narottam Das Thakur was from a Kayastha background, which is like they would take up a role of a minister or scriber or something for the king. Like Brahmanas would take up a role of advisory role for the king. The Kayastha Brahmanas are not very high class. So that's when, in Narottam Das Thakur, he was preaching so ferociously that people would just become his devotee disciples. Who? The Smarta Brahmanas. So then the Digvijay Pandit, who was the head of those Smarta Brahmanas, they all felt so insecure. They went to the king. I think his name is King Narsimha. And he told this Narottam Das Thakur is spreading contamination, making all of Brahmanas as his disciples. It's a disgrace. So they went along with King Narsimha, Digvijay Pandit, and many other men. When they wanted to go to Narottam Das Thakur and defeat Narottam Das Thakur, capture him and captivate him and put him in jail. So this news was spread to two disciples, Brahmanical disciples of Narottam Das Thakur, Ganganaran Chakravarti and who's one more? Ganganaran Chakravarti and one more. Who? Okay, Ramchandra Kaviraj, Ramchandra Kaviraj. Not Kaviraj. Okay, so anyway, so these two people, they devised a plan. They sat at the entrance of that town when Narottam Thakur was preaching. And they were selling pots. One was a pot maker, another one was a betel leaf seller. And as this party of the king and all of them started coming close to this town, they were sitting outside selling and they were speaking fluent Sanskrit. And the king wanted to purchase something. So he sent two ministers ahead. And when they asked, how much does this pot or this betel leaf cost? They said, in pure Sanskrit, they told him the cost. They were shocked. And they went and reported to the king. Then the Panditji was there. He said, if these two Sanskrit, even the common people in the town of Narottam Das Thakur would speak such pure Sanskrit and philosophy, what can we imagine about Narottam Das Thakur? So from there, they took a right about turn and went back. They didn't even enter the city. And at that night, of course, their worshipable deity, Durga, came in their dream and she said, either you surrender to Narottam Das Thakur or I'm going to cut your head off. Of course, then they became disciples. Isn't it? See? So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, these are the disciples and devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu who preached. Jai Shri Shri Radha Madhav ki, Shri Shri Gaunitai ki, Shri Jagannath Baldev Subhadra Maharani ki, Shri Prabhupada ki. So these are the people who actually preached and expanded the movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which is now being carried over across the globe. And the specific instruction given to Srila Prabhupada by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was go and preach in the foreign land. Therefore, you will find Namaste Saraswate Deve, Gauravani Pracharine, Nirvishesha Shunyavadi, Paschat Desh Dharini. That means the specific instruction given to Srila Prabhupada is go to the West. Go to the West and preach. Why? Because Sri Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he understood these are spirit souls wanting Krishna consciousness, not that they are not qualified because of their bodily birth. Kirata Hunandra Pulinda Pulkasha Yavira Shumba Yavana Kasadya Yenecha Papa Yadapashayashaya Shudyate Tasmai Prabhavishtave Namaha. It is mentioned third canto that whatever the caste, some people are no caste, still they can become devotees. Like yesterday, Vrindavan Gopal Prabhu was mentioning about the drums along the Amazon. In that, he goes to the Amazon forest and finally, I think he gets sick, so he contracts some disease and he just gets down on some land deep within the forest. You don't even know what kind of people live there. So some tribal people came, they took him inside into their cottage. And to his surprise, His Holiness Indradhan Maharaj saw that they were worshipping Gaurnitai. So it's like, how did they even get to know about Gaurnitai? These are tribal people deep within the Amazon forest. So that means anyone can take up to practice of bhakti. Anyone can take up to the practice of Krishna consciousness. And I will conclude with this. You will, when being in the West, you will find generally in India, if you ask Prabhu, how did you come to Krishna consciousness? How did we come? We were studying in a college. Some devotee came. He DYS course, joined the center, became devotee. Almost everyone. Other cases are there, but generally speaking. But in the West, any Western devotee you see, you can always sit with them and ask, how did you come to Krishna consciousness? Because they always have a special story behind it. One devotee, I'll conclude with this one devotee, how he came to Krishna consciousness. This devotee, he is from like the MIT, not IIT, MIT of dancing school, Juilliard School for Dancing. And this devotee is, he was graduate from there. But I mean, throughout his life, as any of our lives, we all have problems. So he was pretty stressed about some things. And of course, when some break came in his college, he saw that his friends, they were doing some yoga training course, teacher training course. It's a thing in the US to do yoga teacher training course, because nothing clicks. You can just open your yoga studio and teach yoga. So you can easily make money. So he heard that his close friend, she had done this YTT. So he asked her, where did you do it from? And she had connected with another one person, and he got the same person. He was based off in Thailand. So this person, he was not part of ISKCON. He's not part of Gaudiya Math, but we don't know. But he does some chanting of Hare Krishna. He knows Srila Prabhupada, this teacher of this devotee. So he connected with him along with teaching of yoga. He would give some glimpse of philosophy, chanting one round, giving little philosophy, talking about peace, being stress free, etc., etc. So he liked it very much. So then one day after he graduated, this person in Thailand, he called him to Thailand for next level of practice. So that time it was the Rath Yatra in New York City. And this devotee, I mean, he had already started to connect with devotees because of philosophy and chanting. And he really wanted to attend Jagannath Rath Yatra. Like he was so eager and he was praying that I want to attend this Rath Yatra. But his flight was early in the morning on the day of Rath Yatra. So with a very heavy heart, he had to leave. But he had a layover from over Bosnia, and from Bosnia he would travel to Thailand. Now, and of course, when his friends in New York City connected to the Bhakti Center, they got to know he's traveling to Bosnia. One devotee said, I have a sister or some acquaintance there. You can get connected, they'll give you some prasadam and everything. So the day he landed in Bosnia for a layover, that day was the Rath Yatra of Bosnia. So he became so joyful that he celebrated the whole festival, and he took prasadam and he was like completely ecstatic. And then he went to Thailand to meet this person. And this person, he would teach little Hare Krishna mantra and philosophy and everything, but he himself was not very grounded in Krishna consciousness. So he asked him, "Do you eat fish? Do you eat? Do you drink?" And all this. Now this person is feeling little awkward. What kind of question is he asking? And of course, you know, long story cut short, he finally had to leave Thailand. He offered his respects, and he was very grateful to this person who got him to Krishna consciousness. And when he returned back to New York City, immediately, now he was more connected to the Bhakti Center over there. They preach Krishna consciousness. Over there, he was connected. And one day he was walking in one of the parks, and our Sankirtan team was there. And in Sankirtan team, what we do is we just sit down 4 to 6 hours. We do Kirtan in different parks every day. And as they were doing this, like it's very enthusiastic, roaring Kirtan, like sitting down. But so he came across these devotees so transcendently engaged in Krishna consciousness. He thought, what am I doing with my life? And immediately he joined the Bhakti Center full time. You see, imagine this, understand this person is from the MIT of dancing school. And he has done the yoga teacher training. He left everything and he joined full time as a monk he would just not as a monk, staying in there. Then from our temple, ISKCON New York City, we conducted one Be a Monk challenge. So he thought, okay, it's a nice way to understand how do monks live. So this devotee, he came to the temple and he stayed for a weekend. It's a weekend program. And after that, he said he wants to move in full time. So then he shaved his hair, and he nice tilak and dhoti kurta. And soon he got initiated and he's wearing saffron. Now he is the person who is responsible, the head of the book distribution department in New York City Temple. Can you guess his age? He's just 22. Yeah, yeah, he's 22. His name is Kanagopal Prabhu from Bhakta Corner. So you see how the Krishna consciousness can pierce whatever conditioning, whatever disqualifications, so-called disqualification may be there. the bhakti process, there's no material barrier. It pierces through all the material covering. As we say, Golokera Premadhan Harinam Sankirtan. So when one Shuddhanam can pierce through all the coverings of the material universe and reach Golok Vrindavan. Similarly, the bhakti can pierce all the material qualification. Materially, everything is a disqualification. Anything material is disqualification. So it can pierce to everything and touch the heart of the soul. And Guru Krishna Prasade Pai, Bhakti Lata Bij. Immediately, there is sprouting of Bhakti Lata in the heart. So you can see it for yourself when you come to the West. And then you'll be amazed to see. When I joined the temple in the West, there were hardly any Indian brahmachari. I was only Indian brahmachari. One brahmachari from New Zealand, many from Europe, many parts of Europe, some from Bulgaria, some from America, different parts of America. They have their style, and we have to give them their space. But it is so amazing to find how they're all practicing Krishna consciousness together. It's like complete international level of practice, isn't it? So I will stop. I will pause here. It's already 8:46. Proposed to 8:45. Right. How do we be conscious about not seeing them materially? Nothing to do overnight. I mean, it is a process. Even I see faults. Well, we can see faults in ourselves. We have so many faults, but we can focus on the good things, the spiritual aspects of the devotee. So, if, say, for example, in voice I saw as I was talking with one devotee, we were just talking, and all of a sudden he's doing this bowling. It's like, now I can say, what is this, Prabhu? You're still so attached to cricket, but I can also ignore it. Who am I for him? Am I his guru? I can ignore it. It's just something that comes. The fan is still, it's going to stop. It's still swinging. So then you neglect that. But then, so as you're talking Krishna consciousness with him, he does this thing. You look elsewhere and then, yeah, what you were saying, sorry. Then you discuss Bhagavatam. Just keeping that focus on spiritual aspect is important, I think. Yeah. Okay. Next.
Yes, we have to submit focusing over this. What is qualified?
Yeah. We have to be.
One can one know how to do another know.
Yeah.
So we have to see the material qualification.
Yeah. So when I'm talking about material qualification, looking at material qualification, I mean those qualifications where we offend them and we condemn them and we think we are better than them. For management purpose, of course, we need to do the needful. But I also feel that the managers themselves, if they are Krishna conscious, they can see from the right light of what is needed for service. Then otherwise, what happens is if the managers are not qualified to determine the qualification of the other devotees, then they get affected and they, oh, this devotee does not even know how to cook. Useless fellow. Let's talk to that devotee. So he might not be good at cooking, but he's good at something else. So even managers have to be very spiritually mature to see that, okay, it's material disqualification is not spiritual disqualification. Nor have you opened up an organization to promote material qualification, isn't it? So I have also come across many devotees like under me. Sometimes, I need certain things to be done, and some devotees, they have a tendency to forget. Like I gave one devotee the key, and he has a lot of forgetting tendency, and he forgot where the key was. So I was chastising like left, right, center, and I was saying, you need to take some Brahmi pills, and you need to start working on your remembrance. And finally, as we were looking for the key, and this was like the climax of what the chastisement was raising to. And then I found it was in my pocket. So it was actually he had given me the key and he forgot and I forgot. So then I understood that, if we actually look at the material disqualification of a person and we give enough focus to it, then Krishna will also reflect it in us, and that will become our fault also. So you point out something in others, unless we have the authority to help that person come out of it. As a manager, what is our role? To get the service done, not to pinpoint devotees what they're good or not good at. That's not the thing. Does that make sense? So we do the needful, but at the same time, I think, man, if you're taking a position of servant leadership, then we have a more responsibility to be spiritually conscious that we don't get affected by someone's material aspects. Yeah. Okay. Yes. I'm preaching to the Indian devotees there. In Kali Yuga, all are disqualified. Kalau Shudra Sambhavam. So, what was your question? Experiences in US preaching. Well, I can tell you one thing. We do, like I said, we do Harinam in the parks. So, New York City especially is known for its drunkard, homeless, crazy bums who loiter on the streets and in the parks. Sometimes when we're doing Sankirtan, sitting down, some homeless person comes, starts dancing, and sometimes he has a cigarette, or he has his girlfriend, or he has a bottle of liquor. But they start dancing like dancing out of abandon. Like they don't care for the entire world. And they don't understand what we're singing Hare Krishna, but they just say Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. So at least you get the faith, like this verse in sixth canto. If holy name is chanted even out of joking way, out of whatever way, it has an effect. So then you feel nice. But those are only nice, good experiences. But there are many more adverse experiences. Like once we were chanting in the park, and this person, he started troubling us. There are many lunatics and many crazy people. So what had happened was he was stealing our money. We have a donation box. So they just come and they just steal and run away. And you can't do anything because they're strong. Somehow they're very strong. And they don't mind hitting you, killing you, anything. But we also have Kshatriya devotees, team. So this devotee, he was troubling us. He went and took his backpack. So over there, so what was in his backpack were drugs. So there's a whole thing, underground thing going on where they sell drugs, they get money, and they have to, whatever it is. But he took the backpack, and that guy went berserk. So he followed us to the subway station, and he came with a brick in his hand. And they don't mind; they can just hit you on the face. So they don't care because they're completely crazy because they're overdrugged. So I mean, our devotees were also there. They were also like taking bricks. He's taking bricks, and it's all civilians, in the subway station on the platform. I mean, so one devotee came from him in behind him, hit his hand, and the brick fell, and two, three devotees jumped on him and started hitting him. Fine. And the backpack, the guy who took the backpack, he put it in the trash can. So then the other civilian said, okay, just give him his backpack. So someone, one of us, we went and took him to the trash can. We said the backpack is here. So when he got the backpack, he was calm. He went away. So like that, there are good incidents, there are negative experiences, but in the path of devotional service, everything is ecstatic. Yeah, is that okay? Thank you. So it's already time. Grantha Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki.
I think after 7 years, so happy being in the organization. So I went to over there 1 year, very active in Bangalore. But leading to that, and then like people go anything years and successfully came back. Become my contact. So very one single unit on the board, 2100. The first devotion to be blind and clean battle. Now, as you said, many Indian devotees to even after them to like. Want to thank for years.
We got to hear lot of